Hey guys, it's BlockchainBrad, and today I'm very honoured to speak with none other than Rong Chen. He is the founder and lead architect of Elastos, and he is arguably blockchain royalty when it comes to operating systems for the decentralized space. Rong, thank you very much, mate, for being on the channel once again.
Yeah, thank you. Nice seeing you again.
And obviously it's late for you, so I do appreciate your time today. So today we're talking, obviously, guys, about Elastos, the smart web powered by blockchain. And who better to do that than essentially the very person who designed it. So Ron, could you tell us a bit about yourself very briefly? Obviously the whole world in Elastos knows, but for those who don't, essentially why you're so qualified for this role and what you've been doing lately.
Well, I'm the founder of Elastos, and I've been traveling and playing the role of chief evangelist for the project.
Sure, and obviously that's quite a key role right now. But Rong, just tell us a bit about what was involved in actually designing this. How many years did it take you? And just in comparatively, how serious is it what you've done?
Well, I started this project 18 years ago in year 2000. We've been doing this so-called network OS, which is somehow after 18 years related to the blockchain project.
Sure. So 18 years, Rong, that's no small feat. For anyone to even compete at that level is quite a serious sort of consideration. So one thing that is interesting is I recently heard a quote that you are more so an operating system utilizing blockchain than blockchain utilizing an operating system. So what do you think about something like that?
Yeah, because blockchain, of course, is a ingenious project, but then internet is actually a much bigger project engineering-wise. Mm-hmm. So, but to a lot of people, internet is something they take granted about, right? But then look back, the internet was designed in the 70s, and internet was decentralized to start with. Right. Everyone with a server could connect to the internet, right? But then since internet is decentralized, everyone could fake their identity and pretend to be someone else, right, and could launch DDoS attacks. So then to keep internet still decentralized, yet with ID, with some more added security, that's where the blockchain can play a very key role.
I see. And obviously you tapped into that with your knowledge and skill from Google. You were a senior engineer there, Rong, so no doubt that's put you in such a perfect position to really utilize your skills.
I used to work for Microsoft.NET project, so that's how this project got started, because at that time, 18 years ago, I proposed to do it in C++, but then Sun Macro at that time and Microsoft both was pushing the intermediate language. Even today, like Google uses Java primarily, and which I do believe, well, it's a good thing because of it's a virtual machine, fend off viruses. But on the other hand, there are two drawbacks for Java. One is it cannot run 100% of the programs, such as the game engines, the deep learning algorithms has to run in native. That said, Java leaves some backdoors or leaking bottom of the virtual machine, so people can crawl down to the basement and touch Linux and launching DDoS attacks and fake identity and steal others' privacy. In that sense, Java is flawed. And secondly, Java does not handle end-to-end. So the virtual machine is only on the client side. It's not enforcing the server-side Java on both sides, right? So then we can take over network altogether. We're trying to address that two problems with the blockchain and the virtual machines we're building.
I see. And clearly building a virtual machine is quite a complex endeavor in itself, and you certainly have been doing that for some time now. But Ron, let's talk about that in the context of enterprise. And my apologies, obviously you did work for Microsoft, rather, as a senior engineer. But in that context, obviously, even Microsoft itself, coupled with and partnered with various enterprises during its time in the centralized space. So, how are the developments going for you with regard to making and forging key enterprise partnerships?
Well, right now, because of the popularity of blockchain, um, with the size of our Elastos Foundation, actually, where there's no way we can compete with Microsoft or Google in terms of manpower or resources, for that matter. But on the other hand, we're blessed by the popularity, right, of the blockchain, and we also issued our own coin, and we're lucky enough to launch ELA coins successfully. So with that said, we do have a lot of people right now talking to us and trying to leverage the platform we build and to build dApps on top of Elastos right now.
That's very exciting, Rong, given that, again, you had your key fundraising mechanism, as we call it in ICO. It was very successful, one of the most successful we've seen to date. But let's now talk about your dApps. You mentioned that. For those who may not know, we could talk about that further, but more importantly, what is to come? What can you tell us about those projects that are building and appending to your blockchain?
Well, first of all, let's explain dApps a little bit more, because our definition of dApps is obviously different from quite a few people in the blockchain community.
Yes.
Because dApp, as like app, is for consumers. It's not really system engineers. Because we know every CPU is programmable and runs on apps, but then there are like 40 or so CPUs in a smartphone, right? Not all of them running so-called apps. There's only one key CPU. The main CPU runs apps. The rest of the CPUs actually runs system programs.
Right.
That said, because the apps or dApps we're talking about, literally the mobile apps, and which consumers use day to day, like Telegram. Then there's a decentralized Telegram. Then when you have a file system, then you have a decentralized file system. You're not really means like a file storage. You have a decentralized file storage, right? Like a OneDrive and a Google Drive, that kind of app. We're not talking about hard drives per se.
Right. So it is truly and authentically decentralized by nature, and specifically geared for the mobile, application.
Yes. Because then I want to talk a little bit about what is value internet. Because when people talk about internet or a blockchain, they often refer like value internet, so people can transfer value peer to peer.
Right.
Other than you transfer Bitcoin peer to peer, of course, Satoshi have proved it's doable, right?
Yes.
And also Ethereum, people have been using Ethereum to transfer tokens peer to peer. But then what they're doing is they're transferring numbers peer to peer. Apparently, they did it very successfully. But on the other hand, if you want to transfer any other kind of digital assets, like a blob of digits instead of a number as digits, and when you transfer a blob of digits, for example, ebook, a movie, a game, a file, anything, personal data, and which is valuable, right? And of course, you have to keep track of the scarcity and make sure there's only limited number of copies, which also the accountability is done by the blockchain.
Right.
But on the other hand, we have to be also aware that the data has to be interpreted, has to run on the internet or on a computer.
Sure, and hence your design becomes relevant because it's an operating system to do so.
Because without sending, actually what I'm trying to get lead to the conclusion is that transferring value peer-to-peer actually is transferring code peer-to-peer. The last internet was a so-called internet of information. When you transfer files, photos, and music through URL or through social networks, actually you're transferring data. That's last internet, mobile internet. But the so-called value internet, we're transferring code peer-to-peer through social networks, through URLs.
I see.
Given that understanding, then immediately people can associate, because when you send code peer-to-peer, then there's a virus issue. Then there's the virtual machine issue. Then the virtual machine not only fend off viruses, the virtual machine can also, at the loading time, check against the blockchain to see if you still have the right, you still own the property, right? Because somewhere the virtual machine has to have a chance to validate you own this digital asset, so then you can play it. That's a very key. And so far, the reason why I want to emphasize this is not too many people emphasize the digital assets. The value actually is code.
I see.
It's a program.
Well, let's summarize that. So we've made it very clear we're moving now from the internet of information to the internet of value, and code is king. Code, it really is the essential part of valorizing what is to be the decentralized marketplace for potentials like operating systems, and Elastos is doing that right now and addressing the needs of the value of what the internet can bring. So Rong, thank you for making that so important, the code. And let's talk about that a little bit more with regard to your GitHub. You started with 10 million lines of code, is that right?
Well, actually, we're pulling off at least 10 million lines of code. We're re-putting them back on.
Right.
Because the last incarnation, we're doing smart routers and smartphones. Because, as I said, we want to build native virtual machines end-to-end. So we build one virtual machine running on, not really one. We build virtual machines running on top of smart routers. We build virtual machines running on cell phones. So that the virtual machine on a cell phone can talk to the virtual machine on a smart router.
I see.
We used to, under Foxconn's investment, we used to do the real hardware routers and real hardware phones, right? But now we're rebuilding them into virtual machines on phones and virtual machines on routers. So we are kind of in the middle of putting code back on.
I see.
And last month, we just put the versions of decentralized peer-to-peer network back on, because we used to do a smart home network. Of course, smart home network is a peer-to-peer, so we can transfer peer-to-peer video, audio, file, CDN, that kind of thing, messaging. But then smart home operators, peer-to-peer network usually have a central website to control,
right?
So-called a carrier. So then they can give you numbers and matching your phone with your router. And but that when we talk about internet, we want it to be decentralized. We don't want the internet or smart home to be controlled by any operator, because operator has a potential to peek into your privacy, to listen to your audio, to watch your surveillance camera.
And we certainly have seen that kind of thing recently in the media. We won't name names, Wrong, but that's certainly been the case.
Right, because if you buy a video camera from like Walmart, definitely people usually not aware of the surveillance camera has a manufacturer behind it. But if you buy like say Amazon smart speaker or Android smart speaker, then right, then usually Amazon or Google is behind it. But then if you buy some generic brand from the market, usually don't know who is the operator behind.
Sure.
And intentionally or unintentionally, the hacker could hack into those systems and
I see.
breach your privacy.
I see. So obviously you're addressing that security as well by being a more authentically decentralized model. But let's talk back now to the DApps. You've explained the fundamentals of what sets you apart from the other traditional concept of DApps. But let's talk about the specifics. We talked about Zapier previously as one of the projects that are onboarding onto your system. So what can you tell us essentially about some of the projects that you have been discussing, partnerships with?
Yeah, because we as I said, we just published the peer-to-peer the decentralized peer-to-peer network for smart homes. We just uploaded to GitHub. Of course, we also need like an airdrop kind of peer-to-peer. So because if people use iPhone, they know what AirDrop is. You can send photos through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth directly without using the data plan of phone carriers. And actually, Zapier is the pioneer doing cross-operating system, cross-platform AirDrop. So they can AirDrop from Android to iPhone, iPhone to PC, PC to Mac. Basically, this is a cross-hardware because you can AirDrop media from phone to router, etc. Right? They have about 500 million registered users to use Zapier, and they currently have about 30 to 40 million active users to do the so-called short video sharing. They're actually a kind of a social network, sharing short videos and short ebooks and messages, music, right? And they have like those well-known bloggers, short video bloggers on their in their community. So the reason why we want to help Zapier to be the DApp on Elastos is because they help us to build the infrastructure, like AirDrop peer-to-peer, right? So they're going to open source and help us to make it really consumer-grade quality peer-to-peer network. And secondly, we're working on IPFS together because they are their short videos. They intend to store short videos on IPFS file system.
Okay.
Based on Elastos as well, right? Because we are actually working together to build like a CDN kind of storage for videos. We just actually I'm not sure. We're right about uploading the personal cloud drives using our peer-to-peer network. So we're about this week, next week, we're going to upload the personal cloud drive source code to GitHub. And then that's basically where you put your short videos. And then that's the master copy of your short videos. And then if you want to send to millions of people, right, of course, the bandwidth out of home is not wide enough. Right. So you want to upload it to something like a CDN or IPFS. So then the million users could directly read the video from your from the CDN, from IPFS. I see. But then the video in the IPFS is still rooted to the master copy. If the blogger delete the video from the master copy or refuse to deliver the keys anymore, then eventually the videos on IPFS will expire and run out. I see. So those are the peer-to-peer platform we're building. And also we are going to help Zapier to implement a new business model. So then, given the virtual machines we're building, as I said, we truly believe transfer value is transfer code. So we're going to turn those short videos into code, into programs using some standard tools, templates. And then when you transfer those videos, of course, there are some scripts, more like a DRM embedded into the executables. And then not only we check against, every time we load the music, load the video, we check against the blockchain to see, do people still own the right to play, right? Or you can resell it. If you're done with watching the video, you can resell it. And then not only the original author will get a cut, the seller, the middleman, could also get a cut of the deals. I see. Which is this business model never existed, right? Because even for used books or used DVDs, when you publish DVDs, when you publish books, of course the author get the copyrights. Right. But then when people sell used books, the original author usually don't get anything. Right. But then if we're building this scripts or smart contracts into the executables we generated out of videos, then as people pass the videos along, passing those digital assets, right, values along, and everyone along the chain will enjoy the benefits. So that's kind of a very exciting model.
Absolutely, and it's certainly extending beyond current models, Rong. We haven't heard of really that kind of robust design whereby you move from even a cloud structure where you're using, as you said, the IPFS model, but then you go one step further and really translate the value of code for those to essentially capitalize from the from the grassroots. For the creators, the content creators will essentially benefit from this Elastos model like never before.
Yes.
That's really exciting. So, Rong, let's talk a little bit now about your prototypes. I've noticed you traveling the world. I've been following you, showing people around different technologies. So what can you tell us about the iterations of the actual hardware, potential of Elastos, how it can operate currently, and how that's going in the roadmap?
Yeah, actually, we are not only going to events to the meetups, we're also visit hardware manufacturers and design houses.
Right.
Before this Elastos Foundation was founded in 2017 when we successfully launched the token sale. But then before that, actually, we were, as I mentioned before, I was doing routers and phones. So I do have connections to the Asian market, like the phone manufacturers, the routers, right, and the gadget manufacturers in Shenzhen, in China, in Taiwan, in Japan, in Korea. I do have contacts in those areas. So now we're talking to them to see whether we could work together, like make IPFS mining machines. And not only, so where we put hard drives in, and whoever, let's say, they can install the IPFS mining machines, or actually smart routers or micro PCs for that matter, x86 micro PCs with hard drives built in,
right? So
they can get rewarded, right, by the tokens. Not only, some of them may be rewarded by Filecoins, by the IPFS, the original creator of IPFS, but they could also be rewarded by ELA coins, because I do believe we are building a much bigger ecosystem than the file system itself,
right?
Because of we're building a smart web and web as a computer. So where we have domain name registrations within our fenced garden, Elastos, we like if you want to be called rongchen.id, or you have a website called like google.com or elastos.org and Tsinghua University at .edu, that kind of web names. Of course, we're going to charge domain name fees on Elastos, right? This is a different domain from the internet domain.
Right.
This is the Elastos domain names. So then also we're going to build partner with other folks doing like a search engine and so keywords searches. So if you want to be find first, let's say, right, BlockchainBrad.
That's right.
So you probably want to pay a little bit more, and so you'll be ranked at the top of the page.
Yes.
But those proceeds, we intend to put them in like ELA wallets under the scrutiny of the public. So the proceeds will go back to those who support us with hard drive, with bandwidth, with whatever hardware or any capabilities, right? Way they can help. So we're going to reward all the food chain, everyone along the line, building a much bigger ecosystem than just the files.
And Rong, that's really exciting. I mean, the fact that you have so many connections from your previous positions really does put you in good stead. As you mentioned, you're well situated in all of Asia with your connections. And fundamentally, you are, in terms of hardware and tech, you're well experienced to forge those fundamental manufacturing connections to bring Elastos to the fore. Let's now talk about your community in terms of community development rather than team. You recently appointed Kevin Zhang to the team to develop to be more liaised as a community development officer. So in that respect, how important has that been? And obviously you're considering building out your team further.
Yeah, actually, we just hired a few, 2 or 3 senior developers in the Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And also, I just finished my tour in London, so got quite a few people interested.
Right.
We are because we're really just at the beginning of opening up our old source code to the new platform.
Right.
The first one, of course, is the smart home. The second one we're building is we're actually building a smart web browser.
Right.
Kind of like a Chrome browser, but without HTTP, without letting the applications to access the network.
Is that your Elastos Trinity project?
Yes. Actually, today I just saw a very first demo. The Hello World is running inside a browser.
Right.
And so we do intend to open source them somewhere like in August. By June, we'll have decentralized IDs, the sidechain running, and the decentralized ID planned. I mean, engineering-wise, it could be missed by, always take a grain of salt. Engineers are always overestimate their capabilities.
Well, you have done well though with your roadmap, I have to say. I mean, you've been really...
we did all right because for the past since actually the whole reincarnation started like September 1st, and for a bit of more than half a year, 6 months or so, every step of the way we're almost always made our promises.
Right.
Like in August on white paper, we promised to deliver our public chain, to run our public chain, the Genesis block, in December.
And you certainly achieved
we missed that. We missed that by 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
But then again, 3 weeks in 6 months, right? No, 4 months.
That's pretty
But then
impressive.
since we've never done blockchain before, and also because of what happened in China in September, so at that time we have to pull our servers into Singapore and America. We have to move the team, move quite a few facilities, right?
Right.
And so we successfully did our private token sale, public token sale. We successfully launched on Huobi Exchange on time.
Yes.
And we also on time delivering this peer-to-peer network. And so next one will be the decentralized ID and the personal cloud drive, the surveillance cameras, the peer-to-peer, decentralized surveillance cameras without a self-autonomous driving.
Yes.
P2P network.
Right.
So that said, then we're going to deliver a very first versions of 0.1 versions of the runtime and smart web browser in August timeframe. We're going to have hackathons starting in late May.
Okay.
And probably because we're going to finish the rough prototype 0.1 version in August. So definitely the next school year, we'll have quite a few hackathons in schools.
And what's exciting, Rong, is that you, as we've sort of alluded to, is that you generally are on track with almost all of the plans of your roadmap. And what you've summarized very clearly is you have a very well-structured plan, step by step, of what you want to achieve as you move in to an operational system, arguably eventually in the mainstream. But to achieve that, once again, if we hark back to your team, generally, we're talking about a team that's building. Is that correct? And growing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because after all, this is a virtual machine operating system. It's very creative, innovative. We don't see anything like it open sourced yet. So we desperately are looking for talented programmers worldwide, especially English native speakers, because the documentation should be in English.
Right. So you heard it from the boss. If you are a very skilled developer in any way, Elastos is keen to hear from you. But Rong, let's now talk about some of your formal partnerships. One is Bitmain, obviously very fundamental to your overall architecture. How is that going, considering the illusions you made having to move away? Certainly Bitmain did too, different regions of the world. How is how is
You
that
know
relationship?
this.
Yes, how is that relationship going?
We are doing quite well. Yeah,
Right.
we're doing a joint development of the so-called merge mining because our public chain will do ELA coins. ELA coins public chain will do merge mining with Bitmain,
Right.
with Bitcoin ledgers.
Yes.
So basically, the same mining machine will mine Bitcoin and the ELA coin at the same time.
Yes.
Of course, this is a very instrumental, and we hope by the end of this year we're going to let other people to join the public chain, so then they can purchase mining machines and merge mine ELA coins and along with blockchain coins. So that research is coming along.
I see.
We recently just talking to Jihan Wu a few times, and also March 15th, he personally attended the second, actually the first DApp meetup. We're planning the second right now.
Well, that's exciting. And obviously, if you're not familiar with who Jihan Wu is, he is the CEO of Bitmain, and very well known in all of the crypto space for his role, obviously, in being the first and running the largest mining enterprise in all of essentially blockchain projects. So let's now we've talked about your traditional partners. What about your new partners? We've seen some evidence of airlines being involved, and also even 2 British firms very recently have signed with you. So Ron, can you tell us a bit about these new partnerships coming?
Well, because I just got back from London, they are their main business actually was real estate. And then they're also, because of the constructions, they're involved with movie studios and filmmaking, actually. And also because for the Taiwan's Far East airlines, actually their main business was real estate, and they acquired a local regional airline for tourist locations. And so they built their airline actually access into Chinese provincial capitals. And they also fly into tourist attractions, right? Resorts and those resort towns.
Right.
So they are actually building 5-star hotels and upscale rental houses, rental apartments. And of course, given that said, they intend to issue coins, and the coins could be used to purchase airline tickets, could be used to rent hotel rooms, and could be used to purchase service apartments. And of course, they align with convenience stores and some local gift shops.
Wow.
So then they can use. They're not really using coins like a ELA coin or Bitcoin, so they don't want the coin to go up and down like crazy. But then it's more like tokens for airline miles, right? But then airline miles can be only used by one airline. The token used is actually across different companies and different businesses, right? Or different regions, for that matter. So that's where the credibility, right? People can trust the tokens can be used, and they're real, and so that's a new market we are trying to get our feet wet.
Very exciting. It's very exciting that you're actually touching on many different industries. You're talking about travel, you're talking about entertainment.
No, we haven't really launched yet. As I said, and also because never forget, like British companies was real estate, and also they own some university housing and dormitories.
Right.
Like London South Bank University, for example.
Okay.
I just gave a talk there, and that said, and also because of the service apartments, they do have TVs, they do have smart locks, right? So that's IoT related.
Yes.
I just mentioned. And also for the airlines, they do have records, repair records, and some other records. We could try to put the provenance, the hash
Yes.
numbers on our public chain. So those are the open areas we can experiment.
I see.
We can afford to fail or try and error. And
Sure.
so I'm really excited because we align with the and also we're recently talking. We're going to have the second DApps meetup planned for June in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And the reason being, as I said, we are going to advocate for transferring digital assets peer to peer. Like through phone to phone, through phone to set-top box, through set-top box to routers,
right?
And transferring legit and copyrighted materials and having them resell through the viral social media,
I see.
right? And so that's why we talk to movie studios and we talk to Hollywood.
And that's really exciting because obviously, as you said, is that you're at the beginnings of this entire exploration of how Elastos can interlink with industry marketplaces, industries, both now and of the future. So I wish you well in all of that, Rong. It sounds like you're just starting to make movements there. Let's now talk about your exchanges. We know you mentioned about Huobi. Congratulations on launching on that very credible exchange. What about in the future? Obviously, we had some hiccups with Binance. We won't talk about that. But, you must be excited, though, for the future of exchange potential.
Actually, exchange is not really high on my agenda.
Okay.
I'm traveling basically for signing new partners and getting vendors, the supply chains, right? Because we want our smart home network. First of all, we want our public chain network, the blockchain network, merge mining with Bitmain. So they have, when we launch it to public, we'll have enough mining machines running our software.
Right.
And of course, the second tier is that we want to have the peer-to-peer network, the smart home peer-to-peer network, right? Which transfer videos. We hope to have them landed on smart routers or set-top boxes, right? And we hope by the end of this year, we're going to have tens of thousands installed on set-top boxes or routers. So those are really high on my plate. Sure. And also, of course, signing up partners doing the apps. And when we have those hardware installed, we'll have applications. We'll have, of course, consumers to use our smart web. And all planned. I mean, the very, very first trial is planned for the end of this year.
I see. So the big thing is that you're tech-driven. You're not exchange-driven. You're not price-driven.
No. The only reason we got dragged into BN, it's not really intentional, is because of our investors, our fans, right? Because they want to be, because BN had this thing called you purchase some BN coins, you vote for your favorite token. I didn't like it, and but then it's community run. It's not it's not.
I see.
What I can control, right?
I see.
And somehow with the ended with the sour note, and unfortunately, and I don't want to.
Well, the good thing is that you are now on Huobi, and we're moving forward from that, Rong.
Basically, this is not. First of all, it's not we intended to do, and it's over, and forget about it.
Absolutely. Well, let's now talk about some of your competitors, or arguably, other people who are entering into the market, especially in the operating system. And also, my apologies for the sound. I can notice some sort of crackling sounds. But Rong, in terms of the competitors out there who are trying to do something similar to you, can you comment on those?
Well, since I spend most of the time talking to even giving meetups and giving talks, I don't really look at what other people are doing.
Right.
Because I know what I'm doing, and this is an internet business. I'm no expert of blockchains, but I know internet well. I know operating system well, which meaning I know the app's runtime probably more than anyone in China right now.
Well, Rong, let's get real. I mean, come on. It's not just China. You're one of the best in the world.
I know. Yeah, I know quite a bit. But then very narrow fields. So it's kind of a deep, not wide. But then when you talk about dApps, apps, we don't have to look at others. I know what I'm doing.
Right, and I love that confidence. So let's now talk about that in the context of universities, Rong. Let's talk about Cornell, Berkeley, Harvard, some strong links to some of your own colleagues attending on behalf of Elastos. How important are these collegial relationships?
They are important. As I said, we do plan to have hackathons or visit universities in September, in the fall. Right. Because at that time we'll have, it's not perfect, but we'll have a rough prototype of the Smartweb. Sure. So we think the student kids or the young people, they embrace the new ideas or new internet better than those big corporations. And
yes. And speaking of that, perfect segue into social media, because obviously young people, the youth of the world today, are interacting in new forms of media and information exchange. So how is your social media presence now since we spoke last?
Well, actually, we're doing okay. We're doing good, actually. I really appreciate Faye, the way she manages the social networks, and she did a wonderful job for us and recruited some key partners and some engineers. And also we just signed with the quartermasters, or what's their name? Ding Ding.
Yes, I have read about that.
She is somehow our head of community, both ladies. And I think the future world leaders will be ladies, especially for Elastos, at least.
Right. Well, I
really see the future in them.
Well, I think that Elastos would be very excited about that. Certainly, the ladies, around the world who are entrepreneurial. And Fei Li, as you mentioned, she really is doing something. I often see her very busily working through Twitter, through various social media channels. She never seems to sleep. Right. So congratulations on choosing someone so assiduous, because she certainly is very passionate about building out what is a very exciting project. But I suppose with that comes an exciting development, and that is your community recruitment strategy. So now you're building out strategically how you bring community more engagement more to the fore, and how you interact with them. So obviously led by those ladies. So once again, congratulations. Rong, is there anything you want to add finally with regard to the developments of Elastos? Anything perhaps we've missed in your roadmap, or just some key points that you really want to get across to the community about what Elastos is trying to do?
Well, actually, we're building a new internet. The next generation of internet, we call it the Smartweb, web that runs apps, runs dApps. So I believe, there are only two things on the hard drive. One is data, the other one is code. The last internet was the internet of data, and this internet is the internet of code. Of course, if given any techie will understand immediately, or maybe sleep over it, an internet of code will definitely have much bigger impact than the internet of data, what we've seen for the past 20 years.
I see. So you heard it from Rong. The Internet of Code is the new slogan. It's the new term to really come to know when it comes to understanding the real value of blockchain and what it can really do in the OS space. So Rong Chen, you are the project founder of Elastos. You are a very busy man, and we thank you sincerely for your time tonight. And hopefully we can talk again in the future as another update to really
Thank you so much for your help.
No problem.
Social media.
No problem at all. Thank you so much, Rong.
Thank you. Bye-bye.